That. So we close our eyes and in deep meditation offer flower at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and pray for his mercy that we can dive into the nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. सर्व शास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्व वैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाध्य सर्व लौकिक दृक्प्रद सर्व भागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिद्वंतोतिदादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्व सेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते. मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मन महादन मद निष्ठारक मद भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते. असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीचो ताकर हा ना मुंचा कदाचिन मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्पुरः. We'll read this translation. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Accompanied by pure love of Krishna, please manifest yourself in my heart and throat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudite Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Jai. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna. So we are going to discuss chapter 8 of Canto 2 today. Okay, so the chapter is titled Questions by King Parikshit. So up to this point, we have actually read in the second canto how Parikshit Maharaj asked certain questions to Sukadev Goswami, and that was basically in the fourth chapter of the second canto. And after asking those questions, so we had first set of questions was in the first chapter, and the answer to that, actually first set of questions was in the first canto, 19th chapter, right? And the answers to that was second canto, chapter 1, 2, 3. Right? And then chapter 4, Parikshit Maharaj actually asks questions and Sukadeva Goswami offers prayers and then he starts to answer. And that he answers the question in terms of the conversation between Brahma and Narada. Brahma and Narada. And then that goes on up till chapter number 6. Yeah, chapter number 7, actually, chapter number 7. And then in chapter number 8, now we have the third set of questions. Right? So today we are going to discuss, and this is like a whole list of questions. And this answer to these questions will go through different cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Okay, so the first section of this chapter is actually a very wonderful, very powerful section. And we discussed up to text number 6 last time, but we'll review these verses because they are so beautiful verses, and I've been thinking about these verses. So we'll just quickly go through first 6 verses of this chapter, and then we'll continue from text number 7. Okay, so the first 6 verses is Parikshit Maharaj is actually inspiring Sukdev Goswami that please continue speaking Harikatha. Please speak Harikatha. That is what I want to hear. Okay, so in the first verse, we'll just quickly go through. So text 1 of chapter 8, canto 2, King Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, how did Narad Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? So basically because in the end of the previous chapter, after Brahma gave the knowledge to Narada, what was Brahma's instruction to Narad Muni? Please unmute and say. After he gave this whole knowledge, what did Brahma clearly instruct Narad Muni?
He's just creating what Krishna created.
Okay, that is the essence of his knowledge. But after that knowledge, what did Brahma ask Narad Muni to do?
Spread this word.
Yes, he actually go and distribute this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Very specific instruction. You have received this, now you actually go out and distribute Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first verse of this chapter is actually starting out by Parikshit Maharaj asking that, okay, to whom did Narad Muni distribute this knowledge? Like, who are the recipients of this knowledge? To whom, right? So if you see a Sanskrit, it actually says, Yasmai, Yasmai. To who all did he actually instruct this knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam? So Parikshit Maharaj is actually interested that like how someone may say, okay, go out and distribute books. Like how Prabhupada, at the end of the day, when the book distributors used to come back, Prabhupada used to ask them, so to whom did you distribute books? What did they say? What did you say? And what was their reaction? He was curious to know how the general people are receiving his books. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is curious to know, like, okay, to whom did Narad Muni actually give this knowledge? And also the words guna khyane gunasya, right? That's a very nice Sanskrit word. It says guna akhyane, means in narrating the transcendental qualities, and agunasya, right? So it is like two opposites. One is the Lord who has qualities, and agunasya means without qualities. So how do we understand both of these? One is the Lord who has transcendental qualities, and agunasya means who is free of all material qualities. Right? So gunakhyane and agunasya. So how did he relate the qualities of Krishna, and to whom did he speak? And also it says Deva Darshana, that anyone who receives this knowledge from Narad Muni, he is as good as seeing Krishna directly. Because, and we discussed this point that Prabhupada stresses in the first and second verse in the purport, the importance of the Guru Parampara. If we are receiving knowledge in the Guru Parampara, that is as good as receiving knowledge directly from Krishna. And receiving knowledge from Krishna is as good as seeing Krishna face to face. So Prabhupada talks about Deva Darshana. It is as good as seeing Krishna. Right? Okay, and then second verse actually says, Etat Veditum Ichhami. It is my desire to know all this. Sukadeva Goswami, please narrate. It's my desire to know all this. And then he actually says that anything Harer Adbhuta Virasya, wherever the glorification of the Adbhuta Virya, the extraordinary activities of the Lord are spoken, that is what Katha Loka Sumangalaha. It is actually auspicious, Sumangalaha, for everyone, for all the planetary systems. So you please speak, because this is going to be so auspicious for everyone. And also in that assembly, there were actually sages who have assembled from different planetary systems, right? We read this when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die, and then in the 19th chapter of the first canto, we had the whole list of not the whole list, a long list of personalities who actually came from the different planetary systems just to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So he's saying anyone from any planet, when they hear this Adbhut Viryasya, right, this Adbhut, this extraordinary qualities of Hari, then it is very, very auspicious for them. Sumangala. So you please continue speaking. Okay? And then text 3, he actually says, oh yeah, very nice. So Katha Yaswa Mahabhaga Yataham Akhilatmani Krishne Nivesha Nisangam Mana Takshe Kalevara. So he's saying, oh greatly fortunate Sukadev Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam, so that what? I may place my mind upon the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, and be completely freed from material qualities, thus relinquish my body. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying that until the end of my life, in that 7 days, whenever that Brahmana, that the Takshak in the form of an angry Brahmana is going to come and take away my life, until that moment, please continue speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, because in that way I can absorb my mind in Krishna, right? And what is 2.1.6, where he actually says, Etavan Sankhya Yogyabham Swadharma Parinishya Janma Labha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. Janma Labha Parapumsam. Our life, the highest perfection of the life, Janma Labha, having obtained this birth, the highest perfection is Ante Narayana Smriti. If at the time of leaving our body, if we are able to remember Narayan, then we go back to Narayan and our life is actually successful. So now Parikshit Maharaj is expressing that in words, and he's saying, please, my mind, I just want to absorb in Krishna at the end of my life. And Ni Sangaha, I want to give up any kind of material attachment that may still be remaining, right? And we discussed this point that, we discussed this point that Parikshit had already given up his kingdom, right? When he actually came to the banks of the Yamuna to hear Srimad Bhagavatam when he was cursed. If you see, one could actually give a whole class on this subject of how Parikshit Maharaj has prepared himself for leaving his body. And if you see in 19th chapter, how he was actually first repenting about what he did, and then how he actually saw that curse as the good fortune of the Lord. The Lord is so kind that he's cursed me, and because of this curse, it is easy for me to give up my attachments to my kingdom, my family, my property, everything, right? So first was the stage of external detachment, right? He gave up this. And then in second canto, where is this? I'm forgetting which chapter. I think chapter 4 in the starting, where Parikshit Maharaj actually says, in the starting of one of these chapters, I'm forgetting the number, where Parikshit actually says that now I am giving up, the attachment to the kingdom. I think it's 2.4 in the first few verses of Parikshit Maharaj. Now I'm giving up my attachment to the kingdom, my property, and everything. And we discussed the point that Parikshit already gave it up. Then why again he's mentioning this point to Sukadeva Goswami? Because there he was saying, yes, externally one may actually leave all those things, but internally one may still hold on to those things. And in 2.4 in the starting, he actually gave up even internal attachment to kingdom and so on. And I mentioned this point. I remember when we were discussing that when we go to, let's say, when you go to Vrindavan or when we go to the Holy Dham, many times we have given up, all our duties here. In America, I have the job, I have this. But even when we go to Vrindavan, internally we may be holding on to all those desires. Or at work, I forgot to do this, I have to do this, I have to pay the bills. And internally we may still hold up. So Parikshit Maharaj in 2.4 is showing how even internally he gave up that attachment. And now what is he showing? The third level is actually he's saying that, okay, internally I gave up the attachment to kingdom and all, but I need to give up my attachment to my body itself. And here, by asking Sukadev Goswami that let my mind be completely absorbed in Krishna, he's actually saying, let me actually give up even my internal attachment to my body, and let me be so absorbed in Krishna that I forget about that Takshak who's going to come and kill me. I give up any fear of death. I give up any kind of attachment to the body. Okay, so that is a third level of. So it's very nice to see how Parikshit Maharaj is actually, developing that detachment. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he makes a point in the purport that bhakti is not automatic. We all have to go through these different levels of detachment if we really want to be completely absorbed in Krishna. If we really want to go back home, back to Godhead, we have to develop that external detachment and also develop that internal detachment. Right? And only when we actually do that can we have 100% absorption in Krishna. Right? Okay, so that is text number 3. Okay, and then in text number 4, there's a very famous, very nice verse for memorization. Shinvata Shraddhaya Nityam Griyatas Cha Swati Cheshchitam Kalena Nati Dirgena Bhagwan Vishate Hridi. Right? So next verse 4, 5, and 6 is Parikshit Maharaj is actually talking of like kind of in the first canto, second chapter, when we hear the Shinvata Swat Katha Krishna, and then the verses after that, which actually is a sequence of verses. So similarly here, you can consider 4, 5, and 6 is a sequence of events that happen when one actually hears Harikatha. Right? So first one, what does it say? What is that verse saying? In 1.2.16, Shinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantastu Abhadrani Vidunoti Suresata. So who can explain the meaning just in your own words of this verse? Go ahead. Anyone can unmute and say.
When we listen to Harikatha, Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, from the pure devotee souls, Hridayantasto hi abhadrani. So in the heart, all the abhadras or the negativities will be cleared off. Hridayantasto hi abhadrani, vidunoti, cleansed.
Vidunoti, who does a Vidunoti?
Satam, yeah.
Krishna himself in the heart does the task of cleaning all the anarthas in the core of our heart. All the impurities, lust, anger, greed. Krishna himself takes the broom and then he takes what is the cleaning spray one may use, and then he cleans, and then he cleans away all the anarthas which are actually there for lifetimes. Krishna himself is doing that. Right? But it is Srinvata Swakatha Krishna. We have to hear about Krishna, and when that sound vibration of Krishna enters into the ears and then goes into the heart, that's when, and this verse is what it is saying. It is similar, but it says Srinvata Shraddhaya Nitya. One has to hear, and how one has to hear, right? That it says Punya Shravana Kirtan, that hearing itself is the most pious activity. Right? Here it says we have to hear with 2 qualifications. Shraddhaya. Shraddhaya means one has to hear with faith, with earnestness, Prabhupada says. And then Nityam. Every day one has to hear. Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya. Right? Every day we have to hear, and we have to hear with eagerness. And then Grinatas Swa Cheshchitam. And one has to take the matter very seriously. By one's own endeavor, one has to take the matter very seriously. So other verse was 1 to 16, right? So in this verse, it's saying taking the matter very seriously by one's own endeavor. Then kalena nati dirgena, right? Nati dirgena means it does not take a very long time. For what? Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. That the Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested within one's heart. Now, the question here is, isn't the Lord already in the heart of everyone as Paramatma? So what does it mean to say that when one hears his Harikatha, the Lord is actually manifested in the core of one's heart? I explained this point last time, but maybe someone can unmute and say.
It's like a spiritual television. Lord form, pastimes, qualities will be manifested.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, all these past tense will be manifested. More, I'm looking for one particular aspect. The Lord is situated already in the heart as Paramatma. But then why does it say that when we actually hear about Krishna, it says Kalena Nati Dirgena? It won't take much time for what? Bhagavan Vishate Riddhi, for the Lord to be established, for the Lord to manifest in the core of our heart.
So as Paramatma
Connection of love, rasa will be established.
Okay, connection of love, rasa will be established. Nice point. Okay. Someone
Paramatma
else
is
will say?
neutral witness, but then when he sees our attempt to hear about him, he becomes Bhagavan, the aspect of Krishna who reciprocates with his devotees.
Yeah, so actually the Lord is situated in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma. And then what is the role of Paramatma? Anumanta Upadrishta, right? He is the witness and he's the sanctioner. He actually sanctions. He says like, okay, Jiva, you have so-and-so desire. Okay, I will make the three modes of material work, nature, act upon you in such a way that you can fulfill your desire. That's what the Lord as Paramatma is doing, right? In that way, he is actually neutral to everyone. What is your desire? I will actually make the arrangements in such a way so your desires are fulfilled. But when one jiva hears Harikatha, then the Lord, he does not remain as Paramatma in the heart. He actually manifests his feature as Bhagavan himself. You know? So okay, so you all get this point? So the Lord is as Paramatma, but if you see in that verse, Vadanti tat tato vidas tattvam yajnanam avya, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdete. So it is the same personality, but sometimes he manifests as Brahman, sometimes he manifests as Paramatma, sometimes he manifests as Bhagavan. But that manifestation is dependent on whom? It's dependent on the person who is actually connecting with the absolute truth. If someone is connecting with the absolute truth just to realize the Brahman feature, then Krishna will reveal to him just the Brahman understanding. So when the jiva actually is hearing Krishna Katha, then we can actually meditate on this point that Krishna is going into our ears. Harikatha is actually going into our ears and entering into heart. The Paramatma actually no longer maintains that feature of Paramatma, and then he manifests himself as Bhagavan. And then when he manifests as Bhagavan, what is happening? The Bhagavan and the Jiva are actually exchanging rasa. But initially, rasa will come at a little later stage, but initially that Bhagavan feature, the same Paramatma becomes Bhagavan, and what does he do? First thing he do, he takes a broom, he says, yes, I want to exchange rasa with you, but all these impurities, this blockage is there. So first I will clear out the blockage. You continue hearing, I will clear the blockage, and then when the blockage is gone, then we can actually exchange the rasa. So every time when we're hearing the holy name, we are hearing Harikatha, we can meditate on this point that now the Lord in my heart is not manifesting as Paramatma, but he is actually reciprocating with you. And then Krishna, what does he say in Bhagavad Gita? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. Exactly the same point. That one when actually hears, when one engages in devotional service, Krishna says, I give you the intelligence by which he can come to me. As Paramatma, he does not do that. But as Bhagavan, he will do that. He will give us the intelligence how to come back to him. Right? So Srimata Shraddhaya Nitya. So this is the importance of hearing. When we hear Harikatha with earnestness, with faith, regularly we hear, and we take this matter very seriously. When we are hearing Harikatha, we actually understand there is nothing more important for me than to hear this Harikatha. And then the Lord says, okay, this Jiva, he's taking this matter very seriously. Now I am no longer Paramatma from him. I'm going to manifest my Bhagavan feature. Okay. Is that point clear? Like, I mentioned this in another class, but I don't think I mentioned it before. Like my spiritual master, once he approached Srila Prabhupada, and he was asking a question about something about Paramatma. And he was saying that, so in the heart is the Paramatma manifest as the four-handed Vishnu. I'm not very sure about the question, but there's something along these lines. right? And Prabhupada gave the answer that yes, Paramatma in the heart is like is the four-handed Vishnu form. But he said, no, for you, he is manifested as Sham Sundar Krishna. Prabhupada told my Guru Maharaj that for you, he's manifested as Sham Sundar Krishna. So basically, for a devotee, it's no longer Paramatma. He's actually manifesting his full form as Bhagavan. So that's the beauty of this verse, right? When it says, Lord, very quickly, Kalena Nati Dirgena, the power of the potency of hearing Harikatha, so powerful that the Lord actually, in one way I was thinking, the Lord as Paramatma, he cannot resist himself from manifesting the Bhagwan feature. So this person is hearing, I cannot, like how in that pastime near Govardhan, in the place called Paitha, when after Ras Leela, when the Lord manifested himself, he was just, he appeared as Narayan, when he actually took himself away from the Ras Leela. And all the gopis came and said, where is Krishna? They offered obeisances to Narayana. Where is Krishna? And Narayan said, this side. He went here. But when Srimati Radharani came, then the Narayan could not resist himself. Krishna could not resist himself showing that form of Narayan, and he actually became Krishna. So similarly, the Paramatma, the four-handed Paramatma, when we hear Harikatha, he cannot resist himself, and he actually reciprocates as Bhagwan. Okay, next verse. So that's 2.8.4. Then 2.8.5 says, again, verse for memorization. Pravishta Karna Randhena. Karna means here. Pravishta, when this actually enters into the holes of the ear. Swanam Bhava Saroruram. So how is Krishna manifesting in the heart? So previous verse is saying Krishna is manifesting in the heart. But how does he manifest? Bhava Saroruham. What does Saroruham mean? A lotus flower. So Krishna is manifesting in our heart on a lotus flower. And what is that lotus flower made of? The lotus flower is made of the bhav. Bhav, in the sense here, is our relationship with Krishna. So if we have a relationship with Krishna in Sakhya, then that lotus is actually made of the bhav of Sakhya. And then the Lord is manifested on that relationship of Sakhya bhav. And in that way, he's actually exchanging rasa with the jiva. Right? So the previous verse is about the purification. This verse is about exchanging the relationship in the bhav, bhav or the our sthai bhav, our constitutional relationship with Krishna. Whether that's Sakhya or Dasya or Madhurya or Vatsalya. So a lotus is actually made of that bhav, and the Lord is actually manifesting on that. And then it says Dhunoti Chamala Krishna. So here is talking about Dhunoti. So same Vidunoti here is saying Dhunoti. He's actually cleaning away the material qualities like lust, anger, avarice, hankering, right? And Shalilasya Yathashara. So he's giving the example that when Krishna cleans, when Krishna does the cleaning in our heart, how is the cleaning? Sometimes people hire like companies to come and do a cleaning job. And depending on how the company is, someone may come and do like a partial cleaning job and say, oh, it's done, just pay me, I just want to leave. Right? But some companies will say, no, everything should be perfect, not one trace of dust. And they may do a much better job. But how is Krishna's cleaning? When Krishna actually does the cleaning, it is just like Shalilasya Yatha Shara. Just like when there's a rain, heavy rain, then the water, when there's when the river water is actually muddy, the way to actually purify the muddy river water is when there's heavy rain, then naturally all the mud just goes away and the water is purified. So similarly, when Krishna actually does the cleaning, he's not using like a small spray. He's using just like heavy downpour of mercy. Right? Samsara dava nalali the loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatva. Just like a cloud is pouring rainfall, just how Krishna's mercy actually comes. And then it washes away all the impurities. And when that heavy rainfall is coming, is there any chance of dirt remaining on the surface? No chance. Heavy rainfall. Even last few weeks, we had heavy rainfall. And if your car is outside, and when the heavy rain falls on the car, then car immediately gets, it's like pressure wash of the car, right? No trace of anything left. So similarly, heavy rainfall on the heart, but that rainfall is the mercy of Krishna. And by that rainfall, all the impurities in the heart are actually washed away. Not by any other process. Yes, if someone may do Jnana Yoga, someone may do Astanga Yoga, someone may do, any other forms of yoga, then yes, that is clean purification. But that purification is compared to like the process of sedimentation. If you take a glass which is muddy and you let it sit for some time, then all the dirt sits down. And it appears that the water on top is actually pure. But is it really pure? If someone comes and just taps the glass, what happens? All the dirt from bottom arises. So similarly, the other kinds of purification are such that, yes, that is purification. It appears that, yes, the soul is purified. But as soon as there is some kind of agitation from the material nature, from the three modes of material nature, as soon as someone comes and says something, oh, why did you do this? How can you do this? You are a rascal. Immediately all the impurities, how can he say that? What is his position? All the anarthas actually still come back. So yes, in other processes, there is purification, but not as much as the purification of bhakti. Not as much as the purification when Krishna himself takes the hose and the broom and does the pressure wash. Right? Then there is no trace of sin remaining in the core of the heart. Okay, Swanam Bhava Saroruham. So on the lotus of the Bhav, that relationship with Krishna, then there is the rasa exchange. Okay, so it's very, very beautiful verses to meditate on. Like even there is this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where it says what? Anarpita charinchira karuna avati nakulo samayarpitam unnata jolo rasamsa bhakti shriyam hari purata sundari kadamba sandipito sada hridaya kandare spuroto va sachinandana. This is the last thing I'm going to focus on. Sada hridaya kandare. In the innermost core of our heart, may that Lord Sri Sachinandana be situated. When you say Paramatma is there, no, not Paramatma. I want the Lord as Sachinandana Gaurahari to be situated in the innermost core of our heart. And Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, at the starting of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's giving the benediction to everyone. That those who are studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let him be manifested in the innermost core of your heart. I'll give you one more point and then we'll move on. In that pastime, in the first canto, when we read about Narad Muni's pastime, right? So if you go back to that section where Narad Muni is talking to Vyasadeva and he's describing that after, his mother was killed by the snake bite and how he actually traveled through different forests, cities, and villages. And finally, it is described that he actually sat down. And then it's described that Narad Muni, with his intelligence, using his intelligence, he focused on the Paramatma in the core of his heart. And when he was meditating using his intelligence and focusing on the Paramatma in the core of the heart, the next verse actually said, and then Krishna, Bhagavan, manifested in the core of his heart. So for a devotee, yes, he's meditating on Paramatma. Krishna is right here. But the Krishna feature then manifests in the core of his heart. Okay, so that's the main point. Okay, then 2.8.6. I think we did this also, right? Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Pada Moolam na Munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Pantha Swa Sharanam Yatha.
Prabhuji?
Yes, bro.
Prabhuji, like in the fifth verse, it says, enters into the heart of self-realized devotee. Is it only for a self-realized devotee or to anyone who starts hearing the Harikatha?
Like as soon as we start hearing the Harikatha, the first step that happens is Dhunoti. The impurities are washed away. And then here, because this verse is talking of Swanam Bhava Saroruham, that exchange of bhav between Krishna and the devotee, that bhav will only happen when our heart is actually pure. So as soon as we are hearing Harikatha, purification is happening, no doubt. Krishna himself is doing that. But that exchange of bhav will only come when the heart is pure, in the heart of a self-realized devotee. Okay, that's when we can actually understand what is our sthai bhav, what is our relationship with Krishna, whether it's in dasya, sakhya, madhurya, and then the sentiments between Krishna and the devotee can be exchanged.
Thank you.
So the exchange is already there, but when you're actually talking of the exchange in the sthai bhav, that will happen only in the heart of the self-realized devotee. Okay, text number 6.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the Chaitanya Charitamrita reference you gave, is it in the introduction? Just now.
Anurapita Charyamshira? What is the verse number? It is
If you don't remember, you can post it in the chat later.
maybe one of you can look
Yeah,
up.
I about to ask that, which I forgot actually. I remember, but
It is Adi Leela and
1.4.
yeah, Adi Leela 1.4. That's what I was thinking, 1.4. Yeah. So first chapter, 4th verse, and then it's again explained because these first 14 verses are explained again later on. It comes in chapter 3, text 4. So 1.4 and then 3.4 Adi Leela. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So text number 6. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna. Yeah, right. So it says here, one whose heart. So as I mentioned, this is a sequence of verses, right? So the third text 6 actually is Dhautatma. So one whose heart has been cleansed, right? Dhauta Atma. Like after the Dhunoti, what happens? Then Dhauta Atma, the heart is actually cleansed. Purusha Krishna. Pada Moolam Tan Munchati. Then one whose heart is actually cleansed by Krishna, and he's actually Krishna is established in his heart as Bhava Saroruham on the lotus of the relationship, then Pada Moolam Na Munchanti. That person will never give up the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? Never give the lotus feet of Krishna, and the example is given. Mukta Sarva Pariklesha, and in that way he'll be free from all the miseries. Like we discussed this example last time, right? Like Prahlad Maharaj. In spite of all the tortures he was subjected to, did he ever deviate from the lotus feet of Krishna? Never. And were all those miseries actually miseries for him? No. He was at a totally different level. All those torture were there, but he was just completely absorbed in Krishna. Right? So that's what is described here. That once one's heart is purified, Padamulam na munchanti, then he'll never leave the lotus feet of Krishna. Mukta sarva pariklesha. All there's no longer any miseries for him. Right? And the example is given, Pantha swa sharanam yatha. Just like a traveler. Let's say a person has gone for a business tour. In a business tour, he has to take flight from one place to another. He has to do a business transaction. But let's say the business transactions went very, very nicely, earn a lot of money. But after so much travel, what does one want to come do? Say like, okay, enough of traveling. I just want to go back home. Just want to go back home. Like the interesting thing is the way our mind works. When we are home, we think of when is the next vacation. And when we are vacation, after some time, we'll be like, oh, when will we go back home? So real going back home is that what is a state which is actually described here. When the heart is completely pure, just like a traveler, he's traveling everything, all the business is successful. Now he's reached home, he has opulence, and now he does not need to travel anywhere. Now he's like, okay, done, no more. I had all the hardships of travel, now I'm done. So just like a jiva, he may travel through all the different universes for lifetimes after lifetimes. But when he comes to this stage, then he says, okay, done, no more, never going back to the material world, never taking the trouble of traveling again. Now always at the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? So this 4, 5, and 6 are very nice verses for memorization and meditation, and also seeing how the Lord actually is exchanging with us in the core of our heart. Okay, is this fine? Any questions up to this point, or any realizations? Any point that you want to share? Because then the next section is all the questions. So then we'll go a little fast, because it's just a question, no answers yet. Answers will be subsequent chapters. Okay. So anyone would like to share any points you'd liked in this first section? Or questions or realizations?
Babaji, I didn't know that Krishna will appear in a Bhagwan feature. So I really like the point. Sham Sundar Farm.
Yeah. And based on the devotee's relationship with Krishna, Krishna will manifest in that form. So if someone is like, let's say, a Narsimha Bhakta, and Lord Narsimha Dev is his Ishtadev, his dearmost worshipful form of the Lord, then the Lord will manifest as Lord Narsimha Dev in his heart.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I
Yes.
really like at the same point when the Paramatma will become not just a witnessing, but actually exchange the rasas. And like imagine if that happens and we are about to make mistakes, and he will be like, "Don't do this." Like it will be like an exchange also. And how after all the purification, it's so wonderful.
Like one thing is like, one may say that, oh, I've been practicing bhakti for so many years, but is Krishna really talking to me? Actually, as soon as we take up sadhana bhakti under the direction of Srila Prabhupada, following his instruction, Krishna is already active in our heart. And we just have to, be conscious of how Krishna inspires us in different activities of our devotional service. Just in our daily sadhana, we may be chanting around, so we're doing, and all of a sudden we get an inspiration that, okay, now it's time for me to do this next step in my bhakti. Now is the time for me to, maybe take another project for Krishna's service. Where is all this coming from? It is Krishna in the heart who is actually Tesham Satata Yuktam Bhajatam Pritipam Dadami Buddhi Yogam. He is giving us the inspiration. Okay, now you are at this stage of bhakti. Do this, do this, do this. So the inspiration that comes in our heart, Krishna himself is actually giving all those. So it's not that only after I get completely purified, I can feel the presence of Krishna. No, we can feel it right now, even at our conditioned state. As long as we are sincere in our bhakti, Krishna will reciprocate with us.
But I want to add that Krishna is very personal God. If our intentions are pure, our heart is not purified. My heart is not purified. But if my intention is pure, Krishna helps.
Very nice. Yeah. Bhavagrahi Janana. He sees our intention. If someone is really, sincere about progressing bhakti, then even in a contaminated heart, Krishna will actually say, okay, here, inspiration. Go serve this devotee. Go take association from this devotee. All those inspirations that comes. Thank you. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I mean, we are hearing the potencies and opulences of Krishna, and in these three verses, he shows how much merciful Krishna is, taking. Who is all powerful, all opulent, coming and cleaning the hearts of devotees. It shows how much attached to the devotees.
Yeah, very nice point, Prabhu. Yeah. So one is the side of Krishna as his opulence, his glory, his power, and other side is his merciful nature. Right? So one side is the power, and the other side is this aspect of Krishna as being so merciful, being Bhakta Vatsala, and coming in the heart of a devotee and doing the task of purification. Krishna himself is taking a broom, is taking the cleaning agents and spraying our heart. He's doing the task. Why would he do that? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Atma Ram. He's Aptakam. He's self-satisfied. Why is he doing that? Just because of his causeless mercy, his merciful nature, his love for his devotees. He himself comes and does that. Very nice point. Thank you. Okay. So let's.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sorry. I just wanted to, I'm so moved with your first section of this when you put Anarpita Charicharat in connection with this Paramatma. This is the best understanding of this verse as for me yet. Thank you, bro. This is now my motivation.
Yeah. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is giving us, may that Supreme Personality of Sri Satchidananda Gaurari be established in the innermost core of our heart. So that's what is our aspiration. There's also this, how Prabhupada, I'm sure you all have heard in the class in Geneva, right? He actually made the point that we all should meditate on establishing a throne in our heart where Radha and Krishna can actually sit in the core of our heart. And he actually makes the point, and we meditate that throne is made of like very opulent jewels, and we can actually do that meditation. And I'm not going to speak more on this, but maybe I'll post that, how Prabhupada made that point. And that's our desire. We want Krishna to be manifest. Our Ishtadev, Gaurahari Sachinandan, our Ishtadev, Radha Shamsundar be established in the core of our heart.
We hear so many references to lotus flowers or to the lotus flower. And I mean, should we take this literally, or is this an analogy for something else?
So Krishna, his feet, his navel, his eyes, right? Kunti Devi Maharani prays in this. Namo Pankaja Nabhaya, Namo Pankaja Maline. She actually compares, Krishna, you're so beautiful as your lotus feet. Your feet are just like as beautiful as lotus. Your navel is just like lotus. Your eyes are just like lotus. And here we are talking of the lotus of our relationship with Krishna. So, one way, the most beautiful object in this material world is actually compared to a lotus. Because for us to perceive Krishna's beauty is actually, how can we? We are so conditioned jivas. So hence, our devotees of the Lord, they actually say the closest beautiful, thing in this material world, the most beautiful thing that is closest to the beauty of Krishna is like lotus flowers. So that is one understanding that, and also we see like lotus eyes of Krishna. It is so like a lotus petal. It goes all the way to the ear. So yes, so like that, as a comparison. And the other aspect of lotus is also, if you see in the spiritual world, how the Goloka Vrindavan planet is actually manifested, it is actually in the shape of a lotus. So in Brahma Samhita, if you see the first few verses, like text 1 and 2, not going to that, not from Chintamani verses, but before the text 1, 2, it actually describes the entire spiritual world manifested in the shape of a lotus flower. Right? And also Vrindavan, we hear how it is like a lotus flower which actually opens and closes. So when Radharani has to go from one side to another, or for do a particular pastime, the lotus will close, then become so close. And then sometimes the lotus opens so that it is very distant. So all this actually compared to lotus flower. I hope that helps you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. I was thinking of something else too. If you got more to the analogy end of it, it's like the lotus, it's in the water, but it's not really, it doesn't ever get wet.
Yeah, that's it.
And if we think of, if we have Krishna in our heart, the contamination of the material world, it can't touch us as long as we have Krishna in our heart.
Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, text 10, Krishna makes this point, right? 5.10 of Bhagavad Gita, that, just like a lotus flower, which is never, even though it doesn't touch with water, it's never wet, right? So similarly, that's a very nice point, Mati. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, nice. Okay, so now let's continue. We are going to now read the questions that Parikshit Maharaj is going to ask. From text 7 all the way to 23 is a whole list of questions. So, and the answers, Prabhupada, maybe like in some purpose, he gives a hint to the answer, but the answers are the subsequent chapters. Okay, so we'll go a little fast in this section. So let's start text 7.
Yad vadhatu mato brahman deha rambo syadhatu bihi yadrichaya hetunava bhavanto janate yata.
Hare Krishna. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental spirit soul is different from the material body. Does he acquire the body accidentally or by some cause? Will you kindly explain this? For it is known to you. Hare Krishna.
So it says adhatu mataha, without being materially constituted. So we hear so many times that the jiva is qualitatively one as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So if the jiva is completely pure, it is Satchid Ananda, right? The spirit soul is Satchit Ananda, it is completely pure. How does the jiva ever come in contact with the material body? You know, if something which is completely pure, completely spiritual, how is it possible for that completely pure, completely spiritual jiva to come in contact with material nature, which is actually an inferior energy compared to the jiva, right? So does that contact of the jiva with the material nature, does it happen accidentally, or is there some cause behind this? And how does it actually happen? It seems like an incompatible situation that the higher spiritual nature is coming in contact with it. So how does this happen? That's the first question. So question is clear? Yeah, okay. So Prabhupada in his purport, he actually talks about, like if you see the words also, it says yadricha. Is it accidental without any cause, or hetuna? Or is there some cause behind this? Right, that's his question. So you please inform me, right? So Parikshit is actually asking about these subjects. Okay, that is actually going to help the sadhaka in his goals of bhakti. So all the questions which are here, it is directly related to bhakti as they help the sadhaka progress on his path of devotional service. And then Prabhupada makes an excellent point in the purport. Okay, so first of all, Prabhupada says how Parikshit Maharaj is anxious to establish the philosophical basis of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not just like Bhagavatam is about pastimes of Krishna. What is the philosophical basis? What's the theology behind the accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What is the philosophical basis of the Srimad Bhagavatam? So Parikshit Maharaj is very anxious to establish that basis. Hence, he's asking these questions. The second point that Prabhupada actually makes, that all the questions that may arise in the mind of a serious student must be cleared by authority. So Prabhupada in this section, he stresses on the importance of asking questions. And he actually makes this point. Even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I think from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada elaborate on that. And he actually makes this point that yes, we are cultivating bhakti in our heart, but as long as there are some offenses in our practice of bhakti, then Bhakti Devi will not manifest in our heart. As long as there's some kind of aparad, we say aparad, right? Aparad, one meaning we say Radha, aparadha, right? Where there's no Radha, Radha will not come where there is actually offenses. So Prabhupada and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they're making the point that unless we ask questions, how will we know what are the offenses on a path of bhakti? And if we don't know the offenses, then we will be doing devotional service, and thinking that, yes, I'm doing everything perfectly. But if the offenses are not gone, then our progress is very slow. Hence, one should ask questions to the authority and get them questions clear, because only when these questions are clear will the offenses in our heart actually go away. And then Bhakti Devi will manifest in the core of our heart. So very important point, the importance of asking questions and how that questions actually is the way in which one can actually get immunity from all kinds of offenses on the path of bhakti. Right? So you can write this down. Questions, or like let's say sincere inquiries, gives us immunity from all kinds of offenses on the path of bhakti. Okay. And so by default, because we are conditioned, we commit so many offenses, we don't even know what other offenses we are doing in bhakti, right? We see here so much glorification about the holy name, that just once, if someone chants the holy name of Krishna, he's pure of all sinful activity. But, we are chanting, but still, we may say that I'm not seeing the result. What is described in the Shastra? The only reason is offenses. Right? And hence one should actually inquire that what is the offenses? How can I get rid of the offenses? How can I actually come to the stage of Shuddha Na? Right? Okay. Right. Okay, I think I covered this. Right, and Prabhupada says in the process of devotional service, the first step is what? What does Rupa Goswami say? The first step in bhakti is
Shraddha.
Shraddha.
Okay, that is okay in the sequence, yes, but in Nectar of Devotion, what is the first step that first step in devotional service? It says Ado Guru Ashraya. One has to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And what does it mean to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master? Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya. We have to ask questions. We have to render service. We have to ask questions and render service. And by that, Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina sattvadarshana. By that, the spiritual knowledge. When we actually render service and ask sincere inquiries, then the spiritual master will actually reveal Krishna to us. Okay, so that's the first. So Prabhupada says this inquiry is essential for immunity to all kinds of offenses on the path of our bhakti. And the last sentence of Prabhupada says, it is illegal to become a spiritual master if one is unable to deliver the disciple. The Prabhupada is making a point. If the disciple is asking questions and the spiritual master is not learned in the Shastra to answer the question, to clear the inquiries of a disciple, then it is illegal for that person to become a guru. Prabhupada used a very strong word, illegal. Okay, text number 8.
Aseryat udarat padmam loka samstana lakshanam yavan ayam vai purusha iyatavaya vai pratak tavan asaav iti prokta samsthavaya vavaniva.
He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement. Then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities?
Right. So now what is the point? So now the jiva, based on the desires of the jiva, gets different kinds of bodies, right? Can someone get the body of like a big whale, of a big elephant? Sure. If that is your desires you cultivate all through your life, then Krishna will say, okay, that's your desire, become a big elephant. Right? So even the jiva can get a gigantic body if he desires so, right? And even the Lord is assuming gigantic body as, let's say, Karanakshay Vishnu, and through his pores the universes are manifesting, or Garbhodakshay Vishnu, through whose navel this lotus flower is coming and Brahma is being born. So even the jiva can accept gigantic bodies. Even the Lord is assuming different bodies, big, gigantic bodies. But what is the difference between the body of the jiva and the body of the Lord? Both of them are actually accepting gigantic bodies to do a particular function. So it appears that, that there's no difference between the jiva and the Lord. So the question here is, what is the specific difference between the jiva and the Lord? Because both of them assumes different bodies to do particular functions. Okay. Is that question clear? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Prabhupada says that the Parikshit is intelligently putting questions before the spiritual master for the scientific understanding of the transcendental body of the Lord. The first sentence of the Prabhupada. He wants to understand the transcendental body of the Lord very scientifically. So hence he's asking every specific detail. Yes, what is the difference? Jiva is assuming gigantic body. Lord is assuming gigantic. What is the difference? What is the difference? And Prabhupada in the purport, he actually kind of hints on the answer and says, so the answer depends not on just the magnitude. It's not a question that the Lord is assuming big bodies and the Jiva is assuming big bodies. It is actually the question of the nature of the body. When the Jiva actually assumes big bodies, that body is made of material elements. But when the Lord assumes his body, whatever form he actually takes, it is always Satchit Ananda. There is no difference between the spirit and the body for the Lord himself. Okay, so that Prabhupada gives the hint to the answer. Okay, text number 9. So stop me if you have any questions, but otherwise we'll just be going a little fast through the section.
Ajashridati bhutani bhutatma yad anugrahat dadrisheyena tadrupam nabhi padma samudbhavaha.
Brahma, who was not born of a material source, but of the lotus flower coming out of the navel abdomen of the Lord, is the creator of all those who are materially born. Of course, by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to see the form of the Lord.
So now this is a very interesting question. Now we know from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the navel of the lotus flower, from navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the lotus stem comes and the lotus flower is there. Right? So Garbhodakshaya's body is what? Spiritual, completely spiritual. Right? It cannot be material. Right? Now the lotus flower is coming, and around the lotus flower, all the planetary, material planetary systems are manifested. And then Brahma is manifested on top of the lotus flower. Now, from the spiritual, this lotus flower is arising, and Brahma is born on the lotus flower. So, is Brahmaji's body spiritual or material? Because Brahma's body is coming from the complete spiritual source. He is not born like us, where two material bodies unite and then a child is born. That's not how Brahma is born. And then that's why the word is used, Ajaha, Brahma, who is actually born without a material source. Ajaha, that's Brahma, right? Srijati, create, right? And then it says Nabhi Padma Samudbhava. Nabhi Padma Samudbhava means, Nabhi means the navel, and Padma means lotus flower, and Samudbhava. He's being born of the lotus flower. Right? So what is the difference between the body of Brahmaji and the body of the Lord? Is Brahma's body also completely spiritual? That is the question here. Okay. Okay. So let's see how everyone is attentive here. So without looking at their notes, what are the 3 questions you have covered so far?
His spirit soul takes the body by its will, or it gets.
Yeah, so the spirit soul is completely pure. How does it accept a material body? Is it just by chance, yadricha, or is there a cause behind it? Right? And spiritual nature and material nature, they're actually incompatible. So how does the jiva actually come in contact with it? Second question.
What is the difference between the body of Lord Krishna and the other material?
Yeah, what is the difference between our body and the body of the Lord himself? Because it assumes both of us, we take different forms to do particular functions. Third question.
Difference between the body of the Lord and the body of Brahma.
Because it appears Brahma is born from the lotus flower. He is Ajaha, he is born without material source. So is Brahma's body material or spiritual? And what is the difference between the body of Brahma and the Lord Vishnu? Okay. Next, text 10.
Sachapi yatra purusho vishvastityud bhavapyayaha muktvatma maya mayesha sheti sarva guha shayaha. So, Karuna Mataji, there's a list on the chat with all the names for reading. So you're next on the list after Gopinathacharya Prabhu.
Please also explain the personality of Godhead, who lies in every heart as the super soul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy.
Okay, so here he's saying, so after these 3 questions, he's saying Purushaha. So basically he's saying, where does that Purushaha lie? And particularly here when he's saying Purushaha, he's referring to 2 Purushas. Who is the Purusha who is in the heart of every living entity?
Sharirodaksha Vishnu.
Sharirodaksha Vishnu. And then here the other Purusha is actually the Lord of all energies, and who is actually untouched by external energy. So here is actually referring to Karunadaksha Vishnu. So he's asking both. He's asking about Karunadaksha Vishnu as the Lord of all the energies and who's untouched by external energy. And he's also asking about Shirodaksha Vishnu, who is actually lies in the heart of every living entity. And also it says Vishwa, material world, Sthiti, Udbhava, and Apyaya. That means that Vishnu who is actually the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of all the universes. Who is that Vishnu? From who's in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of all the universes? Karanodakshaya Vishnu. Right? Because it is when you see of all the universes, it is actually Karanodakshaya Vishnu. Then for each universe, then it goes to Garbho and the Shirodakshaya Vishnu. Right? So he's asking about these two Vishnus. Where does he lie? Where is this Karanodakshaya lying, right? And where is Shirodakshaya who lies in the heart of every living entity? I want to know more about these personalities. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually says that Brahma saw a form of the Lord, and that Lord is actually doing the task of creation without touching the material energy. So certainly that Lord must be what? Transcendental. So Prabhupada just mentions that point, that in answer to the previous question, whether what is the difference between the body of the Lord and body of Brahma, Prabhupada is already giving the answer that the Lord is creating. He does the entire task of creation, but he does not come in contact with material energy. That already shows that the Lord is a transcendental body. Okay. Now text number 11.
Wait, can you, maybe I missed it, but the question is about Karanodakshaya Vishnu, because the translation sounds like he's asking about Paramatma, right?
Yeah. So both aspects of that. He's asking about Shirodakshaya Vishnu and Karanodakshaya Vishnu. Both the Vishnus are. Like, how do we know that? If you see Vishwa, material worlds, Sthiti, Udbhava, Apyaya. Who is the Vishnu who is in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of all the universes? Sum total. Karanodakshaya Vishnu. Right? So that's why it says the Lord of all the energies. And then the other one is the Lord who is situated in the heart of every living entity. Who is that? Shirodakshaya Vishnu. So he's asking about both these Vishnus, Karanodakshaya Vishnu and Shirodakshaya Vishnu. Okay. Text 11.
Purusha Vayavairloka Sapala Purva Kalpitaha Lokair Amushya Vayavaha Sapalair Iti Shushruma.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O learned Brahman, it was formally explained that all the planets of the universe with their respective governors are situated in the different parts of the genetic body of the Virat Purusha. I have also heard that the different planetary systems are supposed to be in the genetic body of the Virat Purusha, but what is their actual position? Will you please explain that? Hare Krishna.
Okay. So here Sukadeva Goswami is saying, Iti Shushruma. I have already heard this, but I want to know more. Where did he hear this?
Virat form, Prabhu.
Yeah, Virat Purusha. Where did he hear this?
Last chapter.
First chapter.
Yeah, so first chapter he talks of Virat Purusha, and also in the sixth chapter, right? Where he again, when he talks of creation, again he talks of Virat Purusha. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I have already heard about this Iti Shushruma. I have heard about how for the Virat Purusha, the different parts of the body are lokaha, are actually representative of the different planets and the governors of the planets. So it says lokaha sapalaha, right? So the planets and the governors. So when we read about Virat Purusha, we read how the feet of the Lord actually represent the Patala Loka, right? So in that way, the body, different parts of the body of the Virat Purusha, where actually we discuss other different planetary systems and also the governors of the different planetary systems. But what is their actual position? So can you please explain to me? Right. So this is basically he's asking about Virat Purusha. I want to know more about Virat Purusha. Okay. So if you see in the last few questions, he's talked about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Yes. Where did he say? When he talked about Brahma, he said Ajaha, and then he says Nabhaha, right? So he talked of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He talked of Karanodakshaya Vishnu. He talked of Shirodakshaya Vishnu, and he had asked about Virat Rupa. Right? Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually making the point that one who knows about Karanodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, one who really knows these three Purushas in truth, that person becomes liberated. So just the answer to these questions, one will become liberated. That's how powerful are these questions. Okay. Next, text 12.
Yavan kalpo vikalpo va yata kalo numiyate bhuta bhavya bhavachabda ayurmanam chayatsataha.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Also, please explain the duration of time between creation and annihilation, and that of other subsidiary creations, as well as the nature of time indicated by the sound of past, present, and future. Also, please explain the duration and measurement of life of the different living beings known as the demigods, the human beings, etc., in different planets of the universe.
Okay, so in 12th verse, three main questions are there. First question is Kalpa Vikalpa. What is Kalpa? Like we have heard this before, right? Kalpa is what? 1 day of Brahma. Right? Kalpa is 1 day of Brahma. So what is the duration of the time between the creation and the annihilation at the end of Brahma? What is that time period? What is that Kalpa? And what is Vikalpa? That Kalpa into subdivisions. And what is the first division of the day of Brahma? The different Manvantaras, the periods of Manu, right? 14 periods of Manu. So that is Vikalpa, right? So what is Kalpa? Is the entire day of Brahma. So I want to know about the duration of the time. Vikalpa, I want to know about subsidiary or the subdivisions of Kalpa, and that is subsidiary creation and annihilation. That is each Manvantara. Right? So I want to know. That's the first question. Second question is Kalaha Anumiyate. How is time measured? Right? In terms of Bhuta, Bhavya, and Bhavat. Right? How is time measured in terms of past, present, and future? And then he said, Shabdaha. See, how can we understand time? Actually, time is very, like as soon as I say, okay, this is the present moment, it's already become what? Past. Right? So the understanding of time as past, present, and future is only through sound. We say, oh, this happened yesterday. This will happen in the future. And this is happening right now. So only by sound are we actually saying past, present, or future. Right? So he's actually saying, okay, I want to see how time is measured in past, future, and present, which is actually indicated by sound. So second question about the measurement of time. Third question, it says, Ayur Manam Sataha. What is the measurement of the duration of life of Sataha? Sataha here referring to humans, Devatas, Pitras, the living beings in all planets. What is the lifespan of Brahma? What is the lifespan of Jiva on this material world? What is the lifespan of people in Patala Loka? How long do they live? What is the lifespan of people in heavenly planets? All that. So I want to know about the duration of life of all these different categories of living entities. Okay. The third question. Is it okay? Everyone? Good to continue? Okay, text 13.
Kalasyanugatir yatu dakshate brihatyapi yavatya karma gatayo yadrishir dvija sattama.
Hare Krishna. O purest of Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different durations of time, both short and long, as well as the beginning of the time following the course of action.
So here it says, oh Dvija Sattama. Dvija Sattama. Dvija Sattama is actually, oh best of the Brahmana. So he's actually saying, oh purest of the Brahmana. He's saying, I'm asking all these questions. Why? Because you are the purest of the Brahmanas here. So here addresses Sukadeva Goswami is Dvija Sattama. That's first thing. And then what are the questions here? It says, Kalasya Anugati. What is the beginning of time? Right? When does time begin? What is the, we know time is also eternal, but what is the manifestation, the beginning of time? Okay, and how is it experienced? And I also want to know the smallest measurement of time, Anvi and Brihati, the greatest, the great measurement of time. So we'll read this in the 5th canto, the smallest unit of time as Parmanu, right? The smallest, like it says, like the smallest movement of an atom. That is the smallest unit of time. right? So in that way, it is actually explained later. And Brihati in terms of years. So please explain the duration of time, both in long and short. And then the second question here is Yavata Karma Gataya. What is the destination of different people based on their karma? Right? So one may do good karma, then his destination may be the heavenly planets. One may do bad karma, his destination could be the hellish planets. So all those. And so based on the karma, what is the destination? Gatayaha, what is the destination of all the different living entities? Also, like, that's just one more point I want to say here. When we are going through his questions, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in each one of these questions, he actually says that what is the answer of this question is meant for what kind of rasika, what kind of bhakta in which rasa. And this is a little bit like, anyway, just to say, like he says that this question is for those who are in pure bhakta. Because here basically he's saying that, whatever is the karma of the jiva, he may have different destinations, but all those destinations will be annihilated either in short period of time or long period of time. Right? Whatever karma we do, we'll have a destination, and that destination could be maybe a few minutes, like a small bug, or it could be many long period of time. But either way, that destination is annihilated. Hence, this is a question for a pure devotee, because he's actually kind of hinting that all these are temporary. I want some eternal, complete destination. So anyway, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually gives, and then he says previously this question is for more like the Dasya Bhakta and so on. And if you won't focus so much on that, Prabhupada does not focus on that point. Let's just understand the questions, but just wanted to mention that. Okay, 14.
Yasmin karma samavayo yata yeno pagriyate gunanam guninam chaiva parinamam abhipshatam.
Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulation of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures. Thank you.
So it says karma samayu. So by the accumulation of our karma, right now, by our accumulation of karma, we have, the sanchita karma and different kinds of karmas are there, right? So when that karma, because of the accumulation of the karma, then what happens? Gunana. Based on our karma, we are actually affected by different combinations of the three modes of material nature. Right? So if based off our past karma, if our past karma has been mostly in pious nature, then we'll be affected more by the mode of goodness, right? If our past karma has been more in like accumulating things, then then our or getting things, then our mode that acts upon us will be more passion or ignorance and so on. So here is saying by the accumulation of the modes, or accumulation of karma, one is subjected to the different modes of material nature. So how do these modes act upon guninam, on the living entities, based on their desires? Abhipsaptam, right? Based on the desires, how do these modes act upon the living entities on their accumulation of karma? So there are two things. Accumulation of karma, then we are subjected to different modes. And how are we accumulating karma? Based on the activities, based on our desires. So the desires, accumulation of karma, and the influence of the three modes of material nature. And then it says parinama, resultant. So what is the result of these three? Karma, guna, and desires. What is the result? Does one can get either a birth in a higher species of life or lower species of life? I want to understand all this. Okay.
Can you say that again? Those two things that you just said?
There are three aspects here. One is our accumulation of karma, right? Based on our accumulation of karma, we will be subjected to a particular mode, combination of the three modes of material nature, right? And then all this, the karma and the gunas, they will act upon us based on the desire that the jiva has. So these three things are there. And if these three things are working on us, we have particular desires, we have particular karma, we are subjected to the modes, what is the parinam? What is the result? Whether one will get promoted to a higher species or a lower species. Karana guna sangasya sad asad yoni janmashu. Right? 13th chapter makes that point. Based on a karana, right? We actually get birth in higher or lower species. How does that happen? I want to understand that birth in a higher or lower species based on these three factors. Okay. So Prabhupada elaborates this point in the purport, and he says how actions and reactions of the work, they are actually accumulated, and by the result of that accumulation, then one is subjected to the modes of material nature. And life in the higher planets is basically in the mode of goodness, and every planet where we are now living, there are okay. So Prabhupada gives the example that everyone, if you want to travel to any other country, you need a visa, you need permission. So similarly, when you want to travel to higher planetary systems, you need permission. And what is that permission? What is that passport and visa? That passport and visa is based on our accumulation of karma. If you don't have accumulation of pious credits, you cannot go to Swargaloka. You cannot go to higher planetary systems. So the visa or the passport there is that of accumulation of our credits to go to higher or lower planets, right? Okay. And then, Prabhupada says the same mentality is prevailing in other planets also. So here, if you go to a country, you don't have the right visa, what will they say? No permission to enter. Permission denied. Go back. Go back. Take the same flight, go back. And Prabhupada is saying, similarly, the same thinking is that in higher planetary system. You go to the moon. If you don't have pious credits, they will say, okay, you have come here. You just came here. Now you have to go back. And similarly, like we try to send like spaceships to the moon, right? But because there's no pious credits, we may just reach it. And then the people at the moon will say, like, who is this person? What is his qualification to be here? No qualification. Go back. And then the spaceship will just simply come back to Earth. Yeah. So if you really want to go to the moon, then you have to, because the moon is one of the heavenly planets, you have to accumulate pious credits to go there. So Prabhupada makes that. Okay. Next question.
Bhupatala kakub vyoma graha nakshatra bhubhritam sarit samudra dvipanam sambhavashchaitat okasham. O best of the Brahmanas, please also describe how the creation of the globes throughout the universe, the four directions of the heavens, the sky, the planets, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, the seas, and the islands, as well as their different kinds of inhabitants, take place.
So here it says Bhu, referring to earth, Patala, Patala Loka, Kakup means all the different directions, Vyoma, sky, Griha, all the planets, Nakshatra, stars, hills, rivers, seas, islands, Sambhava, how did they all appear? What is the creation of all of these, right? So if you see creation, it is mainly explained in the 5th canto, from chapter 16 all the way to the end of the canto. So that basically this. So if you see in the Subodhini, this is actually Gauranga Darshan Prabhu himself. Based on the question, he gave, this is answered in so and so, So this is not from our acharyas, but he, like knowing how Bhagavatam is there further, is actually given also where you can find the right answer. At least the first 2 questions, that answer is just in the next chapter. We'll start off the next chapter with the answer to the first 2 questions. Okay, and then here it says, okay, how did all these creation take place? And Okasham means inhabitants. Who are the jivas who live in this different planet? So in 5th canto, you will see that there are prayers by residents of Jambu Dweep, prayers by residents of different Dweep, all those things. So what are these living entities and how are these creation take place? Prabhupada in the purport says, by the laws of Lord, no place is vacant. Sometimes they go to the moon and they say, oh, it is just like a barren land. There's no one there. But, Prabhupada in one of the classes, he said like, no, every place there are living entities. Why would Krishna waste a space, If he's creating a planet, that means there are some living entities with some desire who are actually fit to stay on the planet. So to say that, yes, in this part of the creation, there are no living entities, that's not right. Wherever there's creation, there are living entities, but the living entities are of different forms, which is actually suitable for that particular place. So Prabhupada talks about that the inhabitants, different varieties of land, they are actually differently situated. Not all of them are equal. And then it is the law of the Lord that no place is vacant. Everywhere there are living entities. Sarvagataha, right? Everywhere there are living entities. Okay. Text 16.
Brahmanam andakoshasya bhaya vyantarabetatah mahatam chanu charitam varnashrama vinishchayaha.
Translation. Also, please describe the inner and the outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life.
So 3 questions here. First one is Paramanam Andakoshasya, right? So what is the extent and measurement of Andakosha? Andakosha is what? This universe. So what is the dimensions of this particular universe, Andakosha? And then Bhaya and Abhyantara, the outer space and the inner space. I want to know the dimensions of this universe. Then second one is what? Mahatam Anucharitam. What are the character and activities of the Mahat? Who is the Mahat? The great souls. What is the character and activity of the great souls? Right? And then third one is Varnashrama. Varnashrama means what are the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas? I want to know about that. Right? So 3 questions. Now, anyway, so we are going through a list of questions here. So just a side point. So I was actually thinking that, see, Parikshit, he has like so many questions, one after another. And if you think from the starting of the second canto, if you just think what all section we have covered, and someone says, okay, now all the section is covered, we have come up to like 8 chapters. So first 7 chapters, this is what we have covered. Based on this, I want you to write 25 different questions. Not the answers. I just want you to write 25 questions. This will really make us think that what questions can we think about? But see, Parikshit, he's asking so many questions. And that shows his inquisitiveness to hear more and more and more. And you put yourself in Parikshit Maharaj's position. He has 7 days, right? So now it's like 7 chapters are already covered after the 7 days, right? So 7 chapters are covered. And now he's thinking, I want to ask so many questions that will fill in the rest of the 7 days. So that not one moment is actually blank. Not one moment that, okay, now Harikatha over. Now I'll take a break. I'll take a walk. I had enough of philosophy. Let me just, no, he wants like question after question, non-stop Harikatha. And that should be our position. For us, we are conditioned jivas. If a class goes more than 1.5 hours, we are already like looking at the clock and say, okay, when is the end? And then after this, I have to like do breakfast. I have to do this. Today's Dwadashi, so we'll have a big feast today. And our mind goes everywhere except Harikatha, right? And that's our nature. But at least we are here. We are hearing. That's our sincerity to hear Harikatha. But yes, but you can see, we can think about. So I know in Mother Urmila, when she was taking Bhakti Shastri, she would teach a section, and the homework is find 3 questions that will stump the teacher. I think Vijaya Mataji, you took it with Mother Urmila, right? Yeah. So, you have to you read a section, and the main thing is come up with new questions. Why? Because it is the questions that will really make you think the subject matter. And not just basic questions that, okay, in this verse, what is the question? No, go beyond. That's why it's like questions that will stump the teacher, that will even the teacher is like, oh, I never expected this kind of question. So questions like really deep questions, So seeing Parikshit Maharaj asking these questions, we should think about every time we hear Harikatha, we can think about forming deeper questions in our mind. Because when the questions are formed, then answers will come. But if
Yeah,
we
so so Prabhuji, like our own questions, right? We have to create our own questions, right?
create our own questions, yes. So the point I was saying is like, while we are hearing, we are reading Bhagavatam, think about like deeper questions. And write down those questions. As soon as our mind goes in that inquisitive mode of like knowing more, that actually shows our sincerity to progress in bhakti. And as we started off this section, it is only when we actually ask these questions, then the offenses in our bhakti can actually be washed away. Our eagerness in bhakti is actually shown by the questions that we ask. Right? So maybe this is a nice point to meditate on, a very practical point. When we are hearing classes, when we are reading anything, Prabhupada's books, think about questions to ask. Imagine at the end of the class, someone is going to ask you, okay, please ask 3 questions from this class. And what would those questions be? It really makes us think. That's a nice practice, right? Okay. So we discussed 16, right? So 3 questions. One is about the extent and measurement of the universe, character and activities of great souls, and the Varna and Ashrama. So where is this answered? Character and activities of great souls in Bhagavatam? Where is the answer to this question of Parikshit Maharaj? Character and activities of great souls.
Entire Bhagavatam.
Entire Bhagavatam is actually just the character and activities of great souls. So he has actually asked the question.
Great devotees, yes.
That he's actually going to hear more and more about Harikatha. Okay, next 17.
Yugani yugamanam cha dharmo yakcha yuge yuge antarat nucharitam yad ashtrayatamam harehe.
Hare Krishna. Please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Hare Krishna.
So here he's saying Yugani Yuga Mana. Right? So like Yuga, right? We hear this in Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna comes in every yuga. So what are the different yugas, different ages, and what is the duration of different ages? So the duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000, duration of Dwapar Yuga 864,000. So what are the different ages and what is their age? Then the next part is Dharma. What is the particular occupational duty in every age? Right? So what is the main dharma in Kali Yuga? Harinam Sankirtan. So every yuga has a particular specific occupational duty for that age, right? So even if you see the duties in terms of the varnas and the ashramas, they're slightly different in terms of the different ages. Right? So for a grahastha in Kali Yuga, there may be certain duties. But in maybe Dwapar Yuga, it is like the principles are same, but details may be slightly different. Right? Then Yuga Avatar, right? So in every yuga, what are the incarnations? And I want to know Asharya Tamam. What are the most wonderful activities of the Lord in the different incarnations? So previous verse, he asked about what? The glories and character of devotees. In this verse, he's actually asking about the different incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. So Prabhupada in the previous purport, he makes this point that the glories of the Lord and glories of the devotees combined together is actually the complete knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nothing else is there. The glories of the Lord and glories of devotees of the Lord. Okay. And Prabhupada also says that, whenever we say incarnation, then there has to be like the family where they are born, what is their function. We discussed this in 2.7, previous chapter. So that has to be there. Otherwise, we cannot accept anyone as an incarnation just out of sentiment. We have to, it has to be established by scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we can accept different incarnations. Okay. And then Prabhupada says that when we hear about the activities of the Lord or the activities of devotees of the Lord, then we are directly associating with the Lord. Right? So when you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, what's happening? Directly we are associating with the Lord. And when we associate with the Lord, what happens? Then this chapter 4, 5, and 6 happens. Right? Our anarthas are washed away, and then Bhava Sarovaram, the Lord is established on the lotus of our relationship with Him. So that's Bhagavatam. Okay, 18. So we are almost 18 to up to 23 is the questions. And then we can stop and take a break. Go ahead.
Vinam Sadharano Dharma Savisheshascha Yadrishaha Shreninam Rajarshinam Cha Dharma Kritreshu Jivatam.
Please also explain what may generally be the common religious affiliations of human society, as well as their specific occupational duties in religion, the classification of the social orders, as well as the administrative royal orders, and the religious principle for one who may be in distress.
So different 4 questions are there here. First is Nrinam Sadhana Dharma. Sadharana. Yes, Sadharana Dharma. So what is Sadharan? We use this even in Hindi, right? Sadharan, right? So the Sadharan means the general principles of Dharma. So first one, what are the general principles of Dharma, right? For human society, Nrinam. Then second is Visheshaha. So Sadharan and Visheshaha. Visheshaha is the specific duties of the people, right? And then he says Shreninam referring to the particular 3 classes. So he talks of Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. What are the specific duties of these 3 classes? Then he talks also in Raja Rishi, right? What is Raja Rishi? A king, a saintly king. So what are the duties of a saintly king, right? And then Dharma, Kritcheshu Jivana. Right? So this Kritcheshu means in matter of distress condition. So in the 7th canto, when you come towards the end of the 7th canto, Narad Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj are having this conversation, and he explains what are the duties of a Brahmana, duties of Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, everything. And then after that he said, but if there is an emergency situation, or if a Brahmana is in distress, then it is okay for a Brahmana to do this, and this, right? So in emergency situations or in situations of distress, then what is a dharma? What is a Brahman allowed to do in those situations which may not be allowed in regular circumstance? Okay, so that is the 4th question. Okay, yeah, Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about like Apada Dharma. Apada Dharma is a religion in distress. So that is actually 7th canto. It comes towards the end. Right? And then also Prabhupada talks about these duties of Varna and Ashram. Right? And he basically in Bhagavad Gita 18 chapter, there's a verse, right? Swese karmanya abhirataha samsiddhim labate param. So that Krishna is telling Arjun how by following Swesve karmanya, by actually doing the duties according to Varna and Varna and Ashrama, then samsiddhim labate param, how one can attain perfection in one's life. So similarly, that's the question here. Okay, 19.
Tattvanam parisankyanam lakshanam hetu lakshanam purusharadhana vidhir yogas syadhyatmikasya cha.
Hey Krishna, translation. Kindly explain all about the elementary principles of creation, the number of such elementary principles, their causes, and their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of mystic powers.
So what are the questions here? Tattvanam parisankyanam. Parisankhya. Sankhya is what? Counting, right? So the Sankhya Yoga, which will be explained by Lord Kapila in the 3rd canto, basically this is asking for that. So Parisankhya, what are the number of elements? And Tattvanam, what is the tattva of these elements? And what are the Laksha and Hetu Laksha? What are symptoms of these elements? and the symptoms of the cause of these elements. Right? So that's the first question. Then second, it says Vidhi Aradhana. What are the Vidhi? Aradhana means what? Aradhana. Radha. Right? What is Aradhana?
Worship.
Worship, yeah. So what is the Vidhi? What are the rules and regulations of devotional service? Right? So that's second question. And third question is Yogasya. Yoga, basically he's asking about Yoga Mishra Bhakti or Astanga Yoga. Right? So 3 questions. Okay, next 20.
Yogeshwaraishwaryagatir linga bhangastu yoginam vedopaveda dharmanam itihasa purana yoga.
Hare Krishna, what are the opulences of the great mystics and what is their ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic becomes detached from the subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of the Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and the supplementary Puranas? Hare Krishna.
So here it is actually says Yoga Aishwarya. Yogishwara, sorry, Yoga Ishwara Aishwarya, right? So, and Gatihi. So, what is the opulence and destination? Gatihi means destination, Aishwarya means opulence of those who are Yoga Ishwarya, who are the master of the yoga or mystic powers, right? The great mystics, what is their opulence and what is their destination? Then Linga refers to astral body, Bhanga, detachment. So, how do mystics, they actually get detached from their subtle body? Right? And then what are the Vedas, what are the Upavedas, what is Dharma Nam, what is Itihasas, what are the Puranas? So if you see his questions, basically they cover everything. He's not leaving any room for having like a lack of subject matter. Basically asking Itihasas, Puranas, Vedas, Upavedas, and so on. Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about this mystic yoga. And he says how devotees, we don't need to practice mystic yoga, but still they have yoga, Ishvara, Aishwarya. Right? What is yoga, Ishvara? The master of the yogas, the mystic yogis. And Aishwarya, they are Aishwarya, they are opulences. What are the opulences? There's the Ashta Siddhi, right? Anima, Lagima, Prapti. They are all the Aishwarya of the mystic yoga. And Prabhupada is saying for a devotee, he does not need to practice mystic yoga, but still he has the opulences of a mystic yogi. What examples can we think about this? Where devotees actually showed some mystic opulence, though as such they did not practice mystic yoga.
Hanumanji.
Hanumanji, yes. Who else?
Kardama Muni, he built
yeah, Kardama Muni, okay. So Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about also Ambarish Maharaj. You know, when Durvasa Muni, he actually created this demon to attack Ambarish. Ambarish did not take his sword and say, okay, now I'm going to fight. He just stood peacefully, without fear. So like, okay, the demon is coming, Krishna is there, he'll protect. And Krishna Sudarshan Chakra came. Right? So even though that mystic power was so, Durvasa Muni is so powerful, but by the grace of the Lord, Ambarish Maharaj became even more opulent than that great mystic power, mystic yogi of Durvasa Muni. Right? So that shows that devotee's power is actually Aishwarya is greater than that of the mystics. Okay. Are we tired of questions or should we do some more questions?
Prabhuji, I got a question after reading this question. Parikshit Maharaj, he felt happy when he got the curse and he already have all these questions, Prabhuji. So he thought like, okay, I can get answers for all these questions. It's the time.
I don't understand your question.
He may have all these questions before curse to, like, he may have all these questions from long time, right? Yeah.
I mean, like, when he heard these previous 7 chapters, it is actually from these 7 chapters he wants to know more. Because the aspect of creation was there. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu we read. Brahma's creation was there. Jiva coming in contact with material nature, that also we read. How the entire aspects of creation happens and how when through the glance of the Lord, the jivas are actually impregnated in material nature. So based on these previous 7 chapters, he's actually getting more questions.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the whole point, that when we hear something, we have to come up with more questions. Okay. So should we do 3 more verses, or you want to take a break now? Yes, no?
Let's finish up.
Okay, let's do 3 more. Okay, 21.
Samplava sarvabhutanam vikrama parisankramaha ishtapurtasya kamyamanam trivargasya chayo vitihi.
Well, I think she had to drop.
Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, and how they are annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? What are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense satisfaction?
It's amazing, like how many questions that Parikshit Maharaj has, right? So here it says Samplava Sarva Bhutana. So there are actually 2 meanings to this. And Prabhupada actually, in the translation, he gives one meaning, and the purport he gives a different meaning, which is actually from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Okay? So here, Samplava Sarva Bhutana. Sarva Bhutana means all living entities. Samplava means deliverance. How is the deliverance of all living entities from this samsara? So that is the first question. Right? And then there, Vikramaha Prati Sankramaha. What are the favorable and unfavorable activities of devotional service? Right? So if you see the first 2 lines, Samplava Sarva Bhutanam, then what is the way of deliverance of all living entities? Vikrama and Prati. Prati means opposite, right? So what are favorable and what are unfavorable activities of this devotional service, of this method of deliverance? Okay, that is the first. The other meaning of this is also Samplava actually refers to the creation. Vikramaha refers to anyway, so Samplava, Vikrama, and Pratishrakama can actually refer to the creation, the maintenance, and the destruction of Sarvabhutanam, of all living entities. So both the questions are actually valid, because I will see the answer to both these questions. So either the question is, what is the creation, maintenance, and destruction of all living beings? Or the second question is, what is the deliverance of all living entities, and what are the favorable and unfavorable activities of devotional service? Is that okay? So 2 questions. Then later on, he talks of Ishta. Ishta means performance of Vedic rituals. Because of Purtasya, which is actually the pious acts in terms of the religion. Basically, doing like charitable acts like digging of wells, or giving in charity, planting trees, all those charity acts, they are actually there in the section of the Vedas called Purtasya. So Purtasya, so Ishta is the Vedic ceremonies, rituals. Purtasya is actually pious activities like digging wells, etc. Kamyanam referring to the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, where one does rituals for satisfying one's desires, karma. Trivarga means procedures for dharma, artha, and kama. So all these different questions are there. Okay. Now,
Prabhuji, sorry, I have one question, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead.
Like in this verse, it is said like Parikshit Maharaj is asking like how to understand about dharma, artha, kama and moksha. But in previous chapter, he already renounced everything. So, like before knowing about that, how did he renounce, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So here, Prabhupada, in the starting, when the questions start, that text number 7. So Prabhupada is actually mentioning that Parikshit Maharaj is not only asking questions for his own, development, to be absorbed in Krishna, to actually know the finer details of devotional service, but he's also asking these questions for the benefit of all the people. So Prabhupada mentions that point in purport. And similarly, like, why did Arjun ask all these questions to Krishna? Arjun is a pure devotee. Why did he knew? Why did he ask? It's basically for the benefit of all of us. So similarly, Parikshit Maharaj, He's asking about, like, why would he ask about Karma Kanda? That is not what Parikshit Maharaj is interested, you know. And later on, we'll see, like King Prachini Bharisat, right? He actually performs Karma Kanda section. He's actually performing that. But then by instruction of Narad Muni, he comes to devotional service. So in that section, we see, yes, there is mention of Karma Kanda, but it actually shows what are the faults of Karma Kanda. What is the fault of just focusing on Dharma, Artha, Kama, you know? So in that way, like Parikshit Maharaj is actually inspiring Sukadeva Goswami to mention all these itihasas, Puranas, but bring all this to the conclusion of pure devotional service to Krishna. You know? So that's the main point for the benefit of everyone. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so there's a purport. Maybe I'll come back to this purport. Let's just continue with the questions. Because in the purport, Prabhupada elaborates on, okay, here's a question for you. When you talk about favorable and unfavorable activities of devotional service, what are the two verses which are right next to each other, which actually talk about items favorable for devotional service, items unfavorable for devotional service?
Nectar of instruction.
Yes, Prabhu. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually elaborates on those two verses of the nectar of instruction, right? So that's why the purport is long, because he talks of atyahara, prayasasa, prajalpa, niyamagraha, jana sangasya lolamcha, sadbir bhakti vinashyati. So if you see in the purport, Prabhupada says, what are the, from the expert guru, one should actually learn what is favorable and what is unfavorable for bhakti, what is the advantage and the disadvantage of doing devotional service. And then he says, one should not eat too much. What is that in nectar of instruction? What is the word? Maybe you all can say.
Atyahara prayasascha.
Atyahara. Atyahara means to overeat, right?
Yeah.
So atyahara. So one should not eat too much. One should not accumulate money to become puffed up. That is prayasascha, atyahara prayasascha. Then next one, Prabhupada said, one should not talk nonsense. What is that? Prajalpa, right? So if you see the purport, how Prabhupada is giving, he does not give a direct reference to these verses, but point by point, you will see Prabhupada is just going through these 6 aspects of nectar of instruction. Not eat too much, not accumulate money just to become puffed up. One should just earn livelihood easily and honestly. One should not talk nonsense. One should always glorify Kirti, like one should always glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one should not say the Lord is formless, right? So all that is there. Then after that, Prabhupada says, one should be very enthusiastic to serve Krishna. What is that?
Utsahan.
Utsaha, right? And Prabhupada talks of how is one's enthusiasm expressed. One should preach all over the world. One should be enthusiastic in a daily sadhana, and one should preach all over the world. Utsaha. Then he talks of patience, right? One should be not deterred by success or failure. So Prabhupada gives a very nice point that as soon as we take up devotional service, it is declaring war against Maya. And when you're fighting a war, sometimes maybe the opponent becomes stronger and you are weaker, and sometimes you become stronger. So there will always be ups and downs in one's devotional service. But one should always be patient and enthusiastic and keep going on the path of sadhana. So Prabhupada talks about that, patience. And then one should not associate with non-devotees. What is that?
Yeah.
Yes, so one should not associate with non-devotees. And yes, so basically these 2 verses Prabhupada elaborates in the purport. Okay. And then also the other points in the purport, when Parikshit Maharaj is asking about what is the deliverance for all living entities, right? Samplava Sarva Bhutana. What is the deliverance of all living entities? So Prabhupada actually in turn explains about how devotional service is the way of deliverance for all living entities. And then he quotes from Bhagavad Gita. He quotes from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Mahatmanastu Mam Partha, Devim Prakritim Ashrita. Those who are devotees, they are always under shelter of the internal energy of the Lord. And then he says, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, the Lord is impartial to everyone, but still he gives special attention to the devotees of the Lord. And hence he actually, like Prabhupada in this purport, proves that how devotional service is actually the real mean of deliverance for Sarva Bhutana, for all living entities. Right? And hence Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, hence one should let me see, it's not towards the end, but towards the end of that section of the purport, Prabhupada concludes by saying, hence by all means one should actually take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee by all means. Right? So Prabhupada is establishing how devotional service is a way for deliverance, and he actually concludes by saying, everyone, Sarva Bhutana, should actually take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord and become a pure devotee. Okay, so 2 more questions. This is okay. Let's continue. 2 more questions.
Text 22. Yo vanushayinam sarga pashandasya cha sambhavaha atmano bandha moksho cha vyavasthanam swarupataha.
Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist.
Right. So here basically 4 questions are there. One is how the living entities, when they are merged in the body of the Lord, right, then how they actually again appear. Right. So when does this happen? At the time of annihilation. When there's partial annihilation, then the living entities merge into the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But when the entire universe is annihilated, then the living entities merge into the body of Karanadaksha Vishnu, and then they reappear. Right? So how does that happen? That's the first question. Then second is a question about Pashandis. Who are Pashandis? Infidels. Right? So what is the destination of those who are not devotees, who are not engaged in devotional service? That's second question. Then Swarupataha. I want to know about the Nitya Siddha, the eternally liberated jivas. Tell me about those eternally liberated jivas. And the last question is Atmano Bandha Moksha. And how does the conditioned jivas attain liberation? What is the bondage and the liberation of the conditioned jivas? So 4 questions. And the last one of these questions, 23, and then we stop.
Yatatma tantro bhagavan vikridatyatma mayaya visrijya vayata mayam udaste sakshivad vibhuhu.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency, and at that time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency, and he remains a witness to it all. Hare Krishna.
So the last question is Atma Tantra. Atma Tantra means the fully independent Lord Shri Krishna. Which is the other verse where it says the Lord is fully independent?
First verse. Yeah.
Right. Janmadya Esa Ataha Invato. Someone can say the verse? Started to Abhigya Swarat. Right? Swarat. Right? He's completely independent. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muyanti Yasuri. So Atma Tantra, he's fully independent Lord Shri Krishna. And that fully independent Lord Shri Krishna, Vikridati, he actually plays or he enjoys pastime with Atma Maya. Where's the other verse where we read about Atma Maya? Bhagavad Gita. Okay, think about it. 4th chapter. Atma Maya. So he actually plays with his pastime. He enjoys his pastime by his own internal potency. And then Visraja, he gives up his pastime as he desires, and then to the external, to the Maya. How does he give up his desire, give up his pastimes to the external potency? When the Lord actually disappears, then what happens? he actually engages the Maya Shakti to actually bewilder the living entities. Like how in the Mosala Lila, when the Lord had to actually annihilate the entire Yadava dynasty because thinking, I'm going to leave. But the Yadavas are so powerful that no one can defeat them. But these people also have to go back. Then what did he create? Using the Maya potency, he made all the Yadavas fight with each other. And in that way, they actually annihilated each other. So he actually Visrija, he gives up his pastime by engaging the Maya potency, by the external potency. And in all this, he's enjoying with his internal potency or giving up his pastime through Maya potency, he remains a witness. Udase Shakshivat, he's just a witness. Right? He's just a witness to all these pastimes. So I want to know about these different pastimes, how the Lord enjoys pastimes with his internal energy, how he gives up his pastimes through his external energy, and how he remains a witness to all these pastimes. Okay. So these are the entire list of questions. Now this is enough questions for Parikshit, for Sukadeva Goswami to speak not only for 7 days, but maybe for 7 yugas. So much question. And to that effect, to that point, even after this, the next verse, we will come back after the break. Parikshit Maharaj, so intelligent says, I have asked this question, and even if I've forgotten to ask anything, you answer that also. So there's no question, no chance of anything left. So what I've asked and what I've forgotten to ask, that also you answer those questions. So that basically that shows Parikshit Maharaj eagerness to hear Harikatha.
Yeah, that is the great one.
Okay, so let's take a quick break. It's 9:06, so we went a little bit over. And let's come back in 5 minutes. And in this break, you can think of one question from today's Katha so far. At least one question. Everyone, please think of a question in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Come back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Everybody together, build out. Suppose, close everyone. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
No.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. So let's continue our section. Did everyone think about the question? Anyone has any questions you want to mention? You won't go through answers right now, but you can post your, you can say your question.
Okay, if it's a stupid question.
Okay, go ahead.
I was thinking like Parikshit Maharaj, even though he knows the answer, he's asking questions, right? For the benefit. Should we not? It is also said that we have to ask sincere questions.
Mhm.
Really, if he had a question, but he also knows the answer, then why is he asking those questions? But you explained that it is for the benefit.
Yeah, but actually your question is very good. Question is very good. You're thinking it's not a stupid question because the next few verses of this chapter will answer your question.
Mhm.
So we'll come to the answer, but a very nice question actually.
Prabhuji, I have a question. I am just fascinated by the verse 5, Bhav Saruraham. And in theory, I think I know the answer to my question and my faith is dread. But I'm going to ask this question because you said that sincere inquiry gives up immunity from committing offenses. Prabhuji, how practical it is for the grihasthas that we will be able to see the form of the Lord on the lotus of our heart. I know the example of our Gurujanas, but they were sannyasis. And recently when His Grace Kritu Prabhu came, a grihastha couple who is practicing Krishna consciousness from 40 years asked this question. So how practical it is for the grihasthas that this will happen?
The next question. To give a brief answer, it's not only that sannyasis they realize, like we have example of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, with ideal grahastha, pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. So one thing that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is, it does not matter what is your ashrama. What really matters is your internal cultivation. Even with your grahastha, imagine Bhakti Vinod Thakur was a high court judge. He had 13 children. 13.
10, I think.
10.
10? Okay.
Maybe 10 sons, I'm not sure.
Okay, so 10 sons, and we get overwhelmed with 1 or 2 children. 10 sons, high court judge, still pure devotee of Krishna. So one way to think that our external...
Prabhuji, they are maybe Nitya Siddha, I mean, eternal associates. I was thinking that I want to really ask a sincere question. What are my chances here? As I'm saying, I already know the answer to this question. My faith is not going to shake, but I really want to ask a sincere inquiry. How, for a person like me, how will it be possible?
If you please your Guru and Krishna, nothing is impossible. Even the most sinful person can become a pure devotee. And that's the point of our entire Shastra. So it is possible. We, how with this Srimad Bhagavatam campaign, Vaisheshekar Prabhu has this slogan, assume it can be done. So we say, yes, it is possible. Prabhupada has given everything. We can achieve success in one lifetime. It is possible. And we go ahead with that determination. And we see like, okay, if it is possible, what are the obstacles that is actually holding me back to achieve perfection in one lifetime? Let me work on those obstacles. But it is possible. Assume it can be done. And then move ahead with that spirit. But that's a nice, sincere inquiry. So thank you. Any other questions?
Krishna.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mataji.
So in the text 18, when Parikshit Maharaj is asking about, explain may generally be common religious affiliations of human society, is he talking about, the other religions? Like, is the question about, Muslim or Christianity or those religions, or what is this religion about? Are they touched at all in Bhagavatam, talking about other religious principles?
So, see, like Bhagavatam itself is not giving a name to like Hinduism or Muslim or Christian, but it is talking of the principle of the highest dharma. So when it talks of even sadharan dharma, Prabhupada in the purport, he actually explains that the sadharan dharma for all living entities is to render devotional service. That's it. Yeah. And that is the standard. So even if it's under the name of a Muslim, even if it's under the name of Christian, it does not matter. As long as one is actually developing one's devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it is, you're on the right path, you know. So that way, sadhana dharma for everyone is actually devotional service to Krishna. And that is our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
I have a question about, it's in verse 21, where it says, tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service. And I'm specifically focusing on the disadvantages of discharging devotional service. And there, it may be that I'm using disadvantage incorrectly, using it as a noun instead of a verb, or using it as a verb instead of a noun. Because when I think of a disadvantage, it's something that's going to a bad result. That if I'm discharging devotional service, the disadvantages, what are the bad things that can occur as a result of me discharging devotional service, as opposed to things that I'm doing that are going to take me away from it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how to understand this.
Right. Actually, the point that's actually explained is more in terms of like what are the things that are favorable and unfavorable. So that disadvantage more is the
what are things that are to the discharge of devotional service? So unfavorable would be associating with non-devotees, eating meat, not
Atyahara. So that's why Prabhupada in the purport goes ahead and explains that verse from Nectar of Instruction. Atyahara, prayasasa, prajalpa, mundane talk, excessive collection, excessive eating, all those things are actually unfavorable to devotion. So that this word disadvantage is actually more in terms of what are things that are unfavorable to bhakti.
So my definition of the word was incorrect. How I define advantage as opposed to disadvantage, I just looked at them wrong. Sorry.
No, because the thing in the Sanskrit, if you see, it is Vikramaha and Prati Shankramaha, right? So actually, if you see word to word, Prabhupada is saying Vikramaha as specific power of situation. Prati Shankrama is destruction. As I said, that those words have two meanings. One is the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the living entity. And the second one is actually the favorable and unfavorable situations of devotional service, or what are the activities which are favorable or unfavorable. So if you see from the Sanskrit point of view, it is because the Sanskrit has two meanings, So Prabhupada is actually focusing on the second meaning here, advantage and disadvantage of performing devotional service. So
yeah, I was reading that there's only good things that could happen as a result of discharging devotional service. I mean, what bad can come of it, So
it cannot be any disadvantage of devotional service, because even Nectar of Devotion, the first thing that it actually established is devotional service is all auspicious. Anyone who takes a devotional, it is all auspicious. There cannot be any disadvantage to practicing bhakti. So it has to be the other way around. Okay, so let's proceed. I hope everyone has questions, but because of time, I want to finish. There are a few more verses in this chapter. So we'll just complete this chapter today. So let's go on, text number 24.
Sarvametatcha Bhagavan Prichato Menu Purvashaha Tatvatur Hasyudar Hartum Prapanayo Mahamune.
Who's next on this?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. O great says, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you, and all that I may have not inquired from you, from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrender unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Hare Krishna.
So in the next three verses, Parikshit Maharaj is actually showing what is the mood of a person who is asking the question. So we already talked about the importance of forming question, but what is the mood in which a disciple should ask question to a guru, right? So now first thing is what in this verse is saying, Sarva etat cha Bhagavan. right? So he is actually referring to Bhagavan as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So first point is the question should be actually addressed to someone who is actually a representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead, basically coming in parampara. That's the first point here. And then the ether refers to inquiries that I have made in the previous verses. And that cha means, Prabhupada and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually explaining, cha means and, or and those questions which have been not been able to ask. So basically, this is a point. Please answer what I have asked and what I have not been able to ask. Okay. Then next he says, Prichataha, I am inquisitive, me anu purvasa. So from beginning, whatever I ask, please explain this and please satisfy my inquisitiveness. Right? And then tatvata arasi udharitam. According to tattva, right? Explain all these questions as it is, as the absolute truth, according to tattva, right? And then arasi, you please explain. And prapannaya, I am a soul surrendered to you. Right? Where else do we read this? I am a soul surrendered unto you.
Swadimam tvam prapanni.
Karmanya dosha pahata swaha. Prichami tvam dharma samudachita. I am confused about duty. Prichami, I am asking you. You please tell me. I am a soul surrendered. Shishya se ham shadimam tvam prapanna. Prapanna. Right? So if you see in this word, in this verse, the word that is actually used is prapanna. Same word. Right? Here also you see prapanna. There in 2.7 Bhagavad Gita, you see the same word, prapanna. Right? So basically, this verse is Parikshit Maharaj is saying that please satisfy my inquisitiveness, all that I have asked and what I have not asked. From the beginning, you answer all these in tattva, in truth, and I am a soul surrender unto you. Please impart full knowledge unto me. Right? So what are the two qualities that we see from this verse from about a person who's asking questions? So every verse, next three verses, two qualities we're going to focus on. This verse, the quality is that of inquisitiveness, and second one is that of surrender. So both these qualities, like, when we are asking a question, it should be a sincere inquisitiveness to know the answer. That yes, I want to know the answer, right? So that inquisitiveness should be there. And based on the inquisitive, how inquisitive we are, how eager we are to know the answer, the Guru, to that extent, will actually reveal the answer to us. If we are asking a question just for the sake of asking, in the sense of like saying that, oh, if I ask a question, then everyone will think how smart I am. I understood the class so nicely. If that is your question, then that's not the right mood of asking the question. So one has to be genuinely inquisitive to know the answer. So two qualities, inquisitiveness and surrender. Right? So we see this link throughout the Shastras between surrender and inquiry. When there is a question, that should be the mood of surrender. Like tadvidi paripatena, pariprashnena sevaya. Right? Upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina sattvadarshana. So whenever there is a pariprashnena, that is a question, that has to be prapanna, that has to be surrender. That you are accepting that person as an authority, and from him you are willing to accept the knowledge as it is coming. Okay. So that's this verse. And Prabhupada in the purport, he focuses on that how a guru is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple. If the disciple is inquisitive, then please, oh spiritual master, you please answer this question. Then Guru is always, that's like the duty of the Guru, or the Guru, what he actually wants to do is always glorify Krishna. So whenever there's opportunity of question, then he likes to speak more about Krishna. Right? So a Guru is always prepared to impart knowledge. It is specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive, then the Guru is very eager to give that knowledge. Like Guru, we say, like Samsara Dava Nali Loka, he's an ocean of mercy. He's willing to shower that nectar upon us, but we have to be open pots to receive that. And that openness is actually through our inquisitiveness. And Prabhupada says, a perfect disciple will make perfect inquiry. Not just stupid questions. We may think it's stupid, but actually it may be sincere, right? So we ask from our heart, just be sincere in our inquiry, And the spiritual master will answer. So perfect disciple will make perfect inquiries. And then Prabhupada says, inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is greatly necessary for a progressive disciple. This is another one of the statements that you can actually put a quote and frame it, right? So Prabhupada says, the inquisitiveness on the part of the disciple is greatly necessary for a progressive disciple. So disciple means that should be inquisitive. He should be inquisitive to learn more. Right? Okay. And if you're someone who's not very inquisitive, then no need to approach a spiritual master. Like Prabhupada is saying, so heavy, like he's just making the point. Disciple means that you have to ask the spiritual master questions. Okay, next verse. So two qualities, right? Inquisitiveness we saw, and prapanam, surrender we saw. Now next verse, 25.
Atra pramanam hi bhavan parameshtiyatatmabhu apare chanutishtanti purvesham purvajai kritam.
Hare Krishna. O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow custom only, as followed by the previous philosophical speculators. Hare Krishna.
So here is actually, what is the next quality? He's expressing his faith and confidence in the speaker. So when you're asking a question, you're expressing here is directly saying that you are as good as Brahma. Why? Because you have actually received the knowledge in the parampara coming from Brahma. Brahma, then Narada, Vyasadeva, and then Sukadeva Goswami. So because you have received the knowledge directly in the parampara, then you are as good as Brahma. Right? And he's saying others, so Sukadeva Goswami said, you're asking me the question? There are so many people in this assembly. Go, you can ask someone else. Why are you asking to me? But Parikshit Maharaj is saying, no, you are as good as Brahma. There are other sages and they follow, sometimes they may follow just out of philosophical speculators. They may just be like in the mood of understanding the tattva out of speculation. But I don't want to hear answers from them. Because today they will speculate that this is my speculation on this aspect of the absolute. And tomorrow they will come up with a different. I'm not interested in those answers. I want to know the knowledge which is actually coming down from Brahma, from Krishna himself, as it is. I don't want to hear Bhagavad Gita as it is not. I want to hear Bhagavad Gita as it is. Right? So I want to receive that knowledge as it is. And hence you are as good as Brahma. So second point here is in this verse, we are seeing how Parikshit Maharaj is expressing his faith and confidence in Sukadeva Goswami, in the speaker. Right. And also, anyone remembers Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 2, 3?
Nigama Kalpataror
No, 1, 2, 3. Not 1, 1.
Second chapter.
Swanubhavam Akhila Shruti Saram Ekam Adhyatma Deepam Atitisham Tamonandam Samsarinam Karuna Purana Guhyam Tam Vyasasunam Upayami Guru Munina. You are the gurus of all the gurus. Right? And he's saying, yes, Sanubhavam Akhila Shruti Saram Ekam. You have actually, Suta Goswami is offering his obeisance to Sukadeva Goswami, saying that Sukadeva Goswami, Akhila Shruti, all the scriptures, you have actually, yes, Swanubhava. You have experienced the knowledge of the scriptures. Right? In that way, he's actually, so Sukadeva Goswami is the ideal person from whom one can receive the knowledge, because actually not only he has heard the scriptures, but he has actually experienced the scripture, and he is the guru of all the munis, right? So, okay, and then it says, Adhyatma Deepam Atitisham Tamonandam. And you are the one who can actually take away the darkness in the core of my heart. Okay, next verse, 26.
Namis Sava Parayanti Brahman Anashanarami Vibato Chitapa Piyusham Tadvakya Abhi Vinirshritam. Okay, before we go to this verse, I want to make a point to Vijay Radhika Mataji's question. That one may say Parikshit Maharaj already knows this questions, answer to this question. Why is he asking?
You know, the mood of Parikshit Maharaj here, which is actually explained in this verse in 25, is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually saying that even though Parikshit Maharaj may know these questions, answer to this question, he wants to hear it from the lotus mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. Because what did we say in 113? Nigama kalpataru galitam phalam sukha mukhat amrita dravya samrita. The Bhagavatam, the knowledge becomes even more sweeter when it comes out from the lips of a pure devotee. So even though we may have some knowledge, oh yeah, maybe this is, but I want to hear it again because I want to hear it from your mouth. Because when you actually speak this, it will come out with the devotion that is actually there in the core of your heart. And hence I want to hear it from you, Sukadeva Goswami. Hence you answer all these questions. Is that okay, Vijayarajna? Right? So that's, such a wonderful point that you want to hear it from a pure devotee, even though you may have some knowledge, but you want to hear what is really the nectar in the core of his heart, and you want to bring out that nectar. Okay, 26. So in 26 translation.
O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the messages of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting.
Okay. So now he is actually saying that, someone may say, oh, Parikshit, you're fasting for 7 days. We spoke 7 chapters. Let's take a break. Go break your Ekadashi fast, then we'll continue. No, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, no. I am actually not feeling thirsty. I am not feeling exhausted. Why? Because I am drinking the nectar of this Bhagavatam from your lotus mouth. And because I'm drinking the nectar, no other material exhaustion is there. So don't worry about me that I'm fasting until death. I am relishing this nectar, and this is what is sustaining me. This is what is I want to do, right? So it says, because of my drinking the nectar, right? It says, pibata, right? We say that pibata bhagavata rasa alayam, right? We read this before. Pibata, we are drinking. So we have to drink the nectar of the Bhagavatam, and here Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I'm drinking the nectar of Achyuta Piyusha. Achyuta, referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm drinking the nectar of the message of that Achyuta, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vakya Abdi Vinirisham, which is actually flowing down from the ocean of speech, coming out from your lotus mouth. Right? So do not worry about my difficulties, just speak Harikatha. So what do we see? Other two qualities of the person who's asking here. One is the experience of receiving knowledge. Like if you go to a person who's giving, katha and a spiritual master, and you say, like, Guru Maharaj or spiritual master, last time you answered this question, and it really helped me in my spiritual journey. I was struggling with this anartha for so long, and now it is clear. Now I have, then the spiritual master will be pleased. Okay, yes, he's really accepting the nectar that I'm giving. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is sharing his own experience of receiving knowledge. That is the point 5. And the point number 6, right? We are doing 2 per each verse, right? Point number 6 is the urgency of receiving the message. Parikshit Maharaj is not saying, okay, Canto 2 over, let's take a break. We'll continue tomorrow. He says, no, please keep continuing. This is so essential. This is what I really want to do, right? So the urgency of receiving this message. So 6 qualities of a speaker that we have seen. So anyway, I'll read this passage. This is from Back to Godhead magazine, and it's very nice. So just hear carefully. Actually, it is not possible to understand Krishna consciousness by practicing austerities, by following regulated principles, by chanting a certain number of rounds, even by reading books. One cannot understand Krishna consciousness. The secrets of Krishna consciousness are hidden within the hearts of the pure devotees. The secret of Krishna consciousness is hidden within the heart of the pure devotees, and there is absolutely no way we can ever understand and realize this consequential knowledge unless we find a pure devotee of Krishna, surrender to him, and ask him questions and make inquiries. So the secret of Krishna consciousness is hidden in the heart of devotees. And when we actually ask questions with these 6 qualities, we are actually extracting that nectar from the heart of these pure devotees, and through that nectar is the only way when we can really understand the secret of Krishna consciousness. Okay. So again, the importance of these inquiries. Right? Otherwise, Krishna consciousness will remain for us forever something theoretical, and we will never experience the transcendental bliss, the happiness, the ecstasy, and the real spiritual realization that the real devotee experiences when practicing Krishna consciousness under the directions of a bona fide, pure devotee spiritual master. And I'll post this on the WhatsApp group also, so you can read and meditate on this. Okay. Okay, so those are the 3 verses that Parikshit Maharaj said. So let's just read the last 3 is just a concluding verses. Sutta Goswami is just concluding that Parikshit Maharaj asked the question, and now Sukta Goswami is getting ready to answer the questions, which will start from chapter 7. So let's just quickly read the English translations of 27, 28, 29.
27. Sutta Goswami said, thus Shukadeva Goswami, being invited by Maharaj to speak on topics of Lord Shri Krishna with the devotees, was very much pleased.
Right. So he was Sukadeva Goswami. He heard this. He was very pleased. Now I have an opportunity to talk about Krishna. So he was very pleased. Okay, 28.
He began to reply to the inquiries of Maharaja Parikshit by saying that the signs of the personality of Godhead was spoken first by the Lord himself to Brahma when he was first born. Srimad Bhagavatam is a supplementary Vedic literature, and it is just in portions of the Vedas.
So basically, Sukadeva Goswami is going to answer these questions. And where is that knowledge coming from? It's the same knowledge that Krishna actually gave to Brahma. And the next chapter will actually start off with this knowledge that Krishna gave to Brahma, and that will answer Parikshit Maharaj's question. And what is this? This is actually the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the next chapter, we'll be discussing Chatushloki Bhagavatam. 4 verses that Krishna told to Brahma, and that is the essence of the whole Bhagavatam. So Sukadeva Goswami is going to talk about that. And the last verse of this chapter.
Hare Krishna. He also prepared himself to reply to all that King Parikshit had inquired from him. Maharaja Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandus, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right person. Hare Krishna.
So Sukadeva Goswami prepared himself to answer all the questions that Parikshit Maharaj answered. Okay? And then Parikshit Maharaj had asked the best question. He is described as Pandunam Rishabha, the best of the Pandus. And hence all his questions are perfect. And hence all the questions are perfect. Perfect questions. And now next chapter will be perfect answers. Okay. Okay, so stop here. So thank you all so much. So any final questions, realizations? Like some of you told your questions that you were thinking about, but from this entire session, if you have any questions, actually, I think it should be a nice practice that after every session, you post a question on the WhatsApp group from the entire session. That will make you think, okay, this entire session, what did I hear? What question can I? So please, everyone, take a few minutes, think about it, and just post a question on the WhatsApp group. Okay. Okay.
I have one.
Yeah.
I have one question. Like on one hand, we hear the importance of asking questions, and on the other hand, we also hear like I remember my Guru Maharaj Bhakti Chumaj said that in one way, it's the philosophy. It's like if you're really getting it, you don't have to ask so many questions because it's such a simple understanding. And he said like he didn't ask so much questions to Srila Prabhupada, and also like Srila Prabhupada also didn't ask so many questions to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He just asked like, how can I serve you? So like you hear both those things. Like, so how do we understand that?
Actually, when the disciple is completely surrendered to the spiritual master, then the spiritual master reveals the knowledge in the core of the heart. And then actually, because then everything becomes so clear in our Krishna conscious journey. Because the spiritual master not only is answering, like he's giving classes, he's giving the knowledge, but the knowledge is actually destroying all the doubts, the questions in our heart. And then one feels like, yes, it's also clear, right? So one way the inquiries should be there. In our mind, we should think of all these questions, which is whenever we are hearing, think about these questions. And for a perfect disciple, the answers are already revealed by the spiritual master that he does not need to, like verbalize his questions. But it's already there. But why are the answers there? Because he's actually meditating on the questions. So the importance of asking questions is that one should always make inquiries. But for a perfect disciple, through his service to a spiritual master, the answers are revealed in his heart. Okay. So, many times, like after classes, the speaker may say, okay, are there any questions? Please ask questions. That is like he's giving an opportunity to verbalize those questions. But sometimes maybe someone is so busy in seva, then the answers are just revealed through that service. So he may not feel the need to ask those questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Any final points or realizations from today's session before we end?
Prabhuji, I will share the realization that you said that a secret of Krishna consciousness are hidden within the heart of a pure devotee. And Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us access to the hearts of the pure devotees. Prayers of Maharani Kunti, prayers of the gopis, Venu Gita, Gopi Gita.
Thank you, Martin. Very nice point. Yes. When we are reading these prayers, is basically what is there in the heart of these pure devotees is actually they are so merciful that they are revealing it to us, so we can observe what is there in the heart of Queen Kunti and all these devotees. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, this is very, very interesting. And my understanding, like what degree we are doing bhakti and Krishna consciousness. So that is the main thing, right? So that will give us grace of the Lord Sri Krishna and Guru. But how is from our side, my side, we put that efforts? That is the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do our part. We express we do our sincere devotional service. We cultivate that mood of asking questions, be inquisitive, have the desire to progress in our spiritual life. And if you are doing it sincerely, following the direction of the spiritual master, then everything will be revealed to us. Then the mercy will come.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so it's 9:45, so we'll end here. So thank you all so much for your association. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kalpatarubhesya Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. So if anyone has questions, please post on the group, just to have that mood of inquisitiveness, develop that mood of asking questions. Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, all devotees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Babaji. This class never ends.
Thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna.